This episode of Stories Inside the Man Cave podcast is brought to you by our good friend Jim Saxton at Jim Saxton State Farm Insurance Agency. For all of your insurance needs, log on to saxtoninsurance.com or stop by and give them a visit. They're right across the street from the iconic and legendary Matt's El Rancho on South Lamar in Austin.
Wake your ass up
or take a damn nap.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
It's time.
Sean, you were twerking. That's going to happen.
Murph, don't be a dick all your life.
It's one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're not talking about sports in the man cave, I bet not say you not a man.
That's it.
You know what? This is kind of like a theme of going back to my days in Oklahoma City, Tulsa. We had Andre Sexton, a member of one of Mike Gundy's, his first recruiting class. And now a guy who I made friends with, had the utmost respect for, great writer. He's managed to hang around and survive the evolution of journalism in Bill Haisten of the Tulsa World, in my eyes, he's a 5-star talent.
Oh, my.
The Tulsa World's Bill Haisten. And I can't tell, you're at home right now, right?
Yes, I'm at home. Great intro, by the way. What a great, I love that intro. And my whole place is kind of a man cave. So I just for the record, I hail originally. I'm a Texan, right? And I went to high school in the Panhandle in the Border Bulldogs. And I have family all over Texas. And I went to middle school in Houston. Went to a little middle school in New Orleans, which was awesome. I cried when we moved to New Orleans, and I cried when we left. I didn't want to leave. After just a couple of years, I thought it was great. And the school lunches in New Orleans,
top notch,
unbelievable. So anyway, but I was conditioned as a little guy to love the Texas Longhorns and not like the Aggies. And I wasn't really sure why, but I followed instructions, and I was a Texas fan, and I would cry when they lost and they would win. And, my starting to learn about and love college football began right around the time Texas converted to the wishbone, right? With Emory Bellard and Coach Royal. And then that goes into the great period of the 70s and, of course, the amazing 69 season and the game of the century and then the great shootout. And all the way through, my high school years and the Earl Campbell teams and the switch to Fred Akers. And so, and I've been in Oklahoma now, and I moved up here from Galveston, Sean, in 1990. 1990, I moved here. And I thought, well, I'll be in Tulsa maybe 2 or 3 years. And I'm here. I'm still here. I love Tulsa, Oklahoma. Great town. Great sports.
It reminds me of Austin. And about all Austin was is the late 90s.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say a lot smaller version. Yeah. Our traffic isn't like Austin traffic, but it's gotten so much different and worse than it was a few years ago. But no, Tulsa's a great market. We have an NBA team down the road now. I'd say now for 15 years, we've had an NBA team down the road. And I love the Thunder, that we have the Thunder in the state. We got an SEC program. We got a Big 12 program. The University of Tulsa is an interesting athletic university. Oral Roberts plays great basketball.
Yeah. And baseball.
And high school football, as you know, in Tulsa County is ridiculous.
Yes.
It's almost the priority on playing great high school football in Tulsa County is almost unhealthy, but I sure enjoy it. And there's some great big high schools. The big high schools here in Tulsa are they invest at the maximum level. And so I really have enjoyed my life in Oklahoma, and I still have my Texas roots and relationships. So, and I got to say too, even as a UT fan, as a little guy, I always kind of liked OU.
Did you really? That's something I
Yeah.
did not know.
No, I dug the white cleats and the flashy option game, and I liked Switzer. I mean, so I even kind of liked Arkansas a little bit, but I really liked OU, and I loved Texas. That was kind of my childhood of football. Dallas Cowboys, Texas Longhorns, OU Sooners. I know that's a weird combination, but no, I never disliked OU. Even when I didn't like it when Texas lost to OU, but at the same time, I always thought OU was a cool program, and I thought Texas was the ultimate program. And so here we are now. And I guess the reason you invited me to do this is because I know the Oklahoma State program really, really well.
Yeah,
I covered them. I covered that program on a beat basis for from the tail end of Les Miles' years there through Mike Gundy's 2015 season. And then I was promoted to this columnist role, right? But so I'm still over there all the time. But so this is Mike Gundy's 19th season, Sean, and I can state without question, it's the weirdest of the seasons, of all those seasons. And I would say maybe, he was voted the coach of the year yesterday, right? So I've always said 2009 was his best coaching job because they overcame so many obstacles to win 9 games. As Bryant suspended, Kendall Hunter broke his foot, injuries all over the place, and they still found a way to scratch out 9 wins. Well, I think this is Mike's best coaching job because they had a terrible September. They got stomped at home 33-7 by South Alabama.
Yeah.
They go on the road for the Big 12 opener, lose at Iowa State. They're 2-2. And I'm thinking, man, these guys aren't even going to go to a bowl. And Mike does have a streak now of 19 bowl games. 18 bowl games in a row. 18 in a row. And before Mike Gundy became the head coach, OSU had never had a streak of more than 3 bowl games in a row.
Wow.
And so Mike's taking them to 18. But I didn't think they were even going to get bowl eligible this year.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know what they were at quarterback or offensively. They had no identity offensively, and they weren't blocking anybody. And I just said, oh, this is going to be unwatchably bad. And then they win 5 in a row. They win Bedlam. They get killed at UCF. They rally from that to win at Houston and then beat BYU. And here they are in the Big 12 championship game. Beat BYU in overtime. They need overtime to beat BYU, but here they are now. In what I wrote the other day that this is in effect an SEC versus Big 12 challenge kind of a game because UT in my mind is already representing the SEC, and OSU is committed to the Big 12 program. So let's go. I think this is good for business. I think there's a lot of interest in it. OU Texas rematch would have been great.
Would have been phenomenal.
Oh yeah, but I just think, I think it would have really crushed the Big 12 to have no representative in the Big 12 championship game, which in effect that's what you would have had, right?
Yeah.
If OU and Texas are the participant, if they're the ones who are going to square up in the conference championship game, then that's not a good look for the Big 12. So at least they've got OSU as a Big 12 representative. And then ultimately, but I don't think it's going to end well for OSU Saturday. So I think Texas is going to take a Big 12 championship with them as they head out the door to the SEC.
Well, we're going to break it down, and we're going to do quick, not hard-hitting, but quick topics.
Yeah.
Bill kind of hit on quite a few of those, and in the pro that he is, he kind of knew that, and he just has a lot of working knowledge. And before we move forward, click subscribe to our YouTube page, Stories Inside the Man Cave, and follow our Facebook there's so many social media platforms. So we have Facebook, Twitter /X, TikTok, Instagram. It's all there. It's a lot of work, but that's where we are in this modern day. And Bill hit on it. And this is what we're about to discuss in the remainder of this first segment. And what everybody's counting down, it's the big game in Jerry World. Of course, you got to add a little drama with that, some great music there. And, you know, when you look at this matchup, and you mentioned it, I want to play a quick soundbite from Kelvin Banks, the stud, one of the stud old linemen for Texas, who was, I believe, heavily recruited by Mike Gundy and ultimately signed with Texas. You mentioned that UCF loss in which OSU lost 45-3.
Correct.
Correct? So Kelvin Banks was asked about that, do you lose any respect for them? Do you judge Oklahoma State for not only losing to UCF, but really a bad loss at home to the Major Applewhite, who's the OC at South Alabama, when OSU was trying to find their identity? And this is what Kelvin had to say. I mean, it's a great political response, but as a player, it really makes sense.
It's no different. I've said it before. Guys are on scholarship just like we're on scholarship. Just because the name of the team or something they've done in the past, it doesn't matter. You got to come up and be ready to play.
See, they've been coached what to say and what not to say. But can you? I mean, when you look at that USA loss, I saw it. Everybody saw it, and then UCF, who has a world of talent. But they, and Gus Malzahn, but they shouldn't have been. And I don't know. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been, but I don't. No one saw that coming. I mean, what happened? What happened since then?
Okay, so keep in mind that a week before the UCF game was the final Bedlam game, right, in Stillwater, and the OSU people. There's been a lot of talk about whether they would want to continue that series. You remember the UTA&M divorce a decade ago, right? And so it's been a lot like that up here. So, but the final, there was a massive build-up to that game. Final Bedlam at Stillwater. And so Oklahoma State wins that game. It's the most it was the wildest post-game celebration I've ever seen in that stadium. Goalpost comes down. Just the most unbridled joy I've ever seen from the OSU fan base that day, right? To beat OU in the final Bedlam. And actually that's 2 out of 3 years now that Mike has beaten OU in Bedlam, which before that he couldn't beat them ever. And so, of course, and that Monday, I remember at Mike's news conference, he was like, I don't want to hear any more about Bedlam. I don't want to talk about Bedlam. We got a really tough opponent this week, and we have got to focus. And that's what I wrote is this is such a dangerous opponent because UCF is way better than their record, which was 1-5 in the league at that time. And I had seen them play Baylor, and I had seen them play a couple other games. And I'm like, how is this team not winning more games? Because they had great personnel, and it just felt like a trap. I mean, it was a trap no matter what, but this felt like a real dangerous trap. And OSU goes down there and couldn't block UCF. Ollie Gordon got stuffed. There was a miserable weather, torrential rain, and everything that could go wrong that day did for OSU. And they just got smoked, 45-3, one of the biggest victories in UCF football history. And so you think, well, man, I mean, I was like you. I just thought, and then a week later, Sean, they go to U of H, and they're down 2 touchdowns late in the half, and they're playing like trash. Yeah. And then Houston makes a bad turnover. OSU capitalizes with 10 points in like 2 minutes and goes in trailing at halftime, but kind of winning the game at halftime, if that makes sense, because the momentum totally flipped. And so, and then OSU had to come back the week after that, trailed 24-6 at halftime against BYU, and rallied to win the game in double overtime. So, I mean, you and I talked yesterday, and you know my pick for Saturday is 38-21 Texas, and so because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around OSU winning this game against that Texas front seven when UCF so completely stuffed OSU's run game. OSU ran for 52 total that day. Ollie ran for 25 yards on 12 carries. He's the nation's leading rusher. Nobody else is doing that to him. UCF did. And I'm thinking, man, if UCF can do what it did to the OSU run game, what can a motivated Texas do in a championship game? Now, I'm not saying I think OSU will be motivated too. OSU has beat Texas 9 out of the last 13. They know how to beat Texas. I just don't think they know how to beat a Texas team like this, because this is better than any of those 9 teams. This 2023 Longhorn team is better than any of those 9 that OSU beat in past years. And I'm not sure this OSU team is on the level of most of those OSU teams. So, yeah, I feel like it's an intriguing matchup, but I don't think it'll end well for Oklahoma State. I think Texas will control the line of scrimmage and dominate at the point of attack and win the game. Like I said, 38-21.
No, that's fair. I'm saying something like, I am giving OSU the benefit of the doubt to play well, but I'm looking at something like 27-10. Texas. But you mentioned them. The key here is Ollie Gordon. The guy is obviously the leading rusher in the country. I mean, what is it about him? What are you so intrigued about him? What is it about him that makes him special?
Well, I mean, it's so funny because once he got hot, it started with the Kansas State game. And just continued. It just built from there. And so, and I'm thinking this whole time, Sean, how in the world did they come out of 15 spring practices and 20 preseason practices and the first 3 games of the season and not see that he was the best player, their best offensive playmaker? Right. Well, actually, Brennan Presley's their best playmaker, but Ollie Gordon obviously was the best run game weapon. Right. And yet still through those first 3, OSU, you talk about a crazy way to start the season, but they were playing 3 different quarterbacks, kind of equal reps. Okay. They couldn't even determine that Alan Bowman, who was a 23-year-old veteran senior guy, was clearly the best quarterback. So they were running different quarterbacks on the field. And Ollie Gordon was getting like a few carries, but not the bulk of the carries. And you're like, this is horrific. I mean, they had no identity and they weren't dynamic. They got killed by South Alabama. But once they just committed to Ollie Gordon as the guy in the run game, and they tailored some, they retooled some blocking schemes that better fit what he likes to do and what he's best at. And then it just built from there. And so he's held up. He's pretty fresh considering he's been averaging 28 carries a game or so since they really started using him. I don't think he's a uniquely talented guy. I don't think he's necessarily I don't think he's going to blow anybody away at the combine with his 40 time. But he does have a knack, he's slippery and he's angular and he's an interesting back. He's a great college back who's going to be a real hot guy in the NIL market in the offseason. No doubt about that. But and I got to say, too, for most of the last decade, OSU and on some 10 and 11 win teams, the last decade, they haven't been any good up front. Not really. because like in 06 through 2012 with Joe Wickline, who coached for a little bit in Texas, and the best O-line coach I've ever like been around or really covered or got to know really well. I think Joe Wickline's a genius.
Yeah, he was. It is.
Yeah, I love the guy too. But I would say 06 through 2012, OSU consistently had the best offensive lines in the Big 12. I mean, the stats bear that out. They would consistently give up the fewest sacks in the conference, Sean, and then they would consistently be 1 or 2 in the league in rushing the football, right? So protecting and run blocking, A+. And then the last decade or so, they haven't been any good up front. Not really. They've either been okay or they've been garbage. And so to my surprise, or maybe beyond surprise, to my shock, they started blocking really pretty well about midseason and sustained it. I mean, the UCF game was an anomaly. I think they would have lost to just about any opponent in the country that week after the Bedlam game. I've never seen a team have a worse hangover ever from any game. And I've covered a ton of OU Texas games, and there was always that, oh, baby, OU won in the Cotton Bowl, but now here comes the hangover. And sometimes they might be a little flat in the next week, but they would usually win. But, oh, my Lord, OSU they weren't even ready to play.
Out of sorts.
Yeah, they were terrible. So, but if you just, no matter how you cut it up, this matchup Saturday, I can't find, and you say, well, Mike Gundy, and you and I talked yesterday, and you pointed out very correctly that Mike Gundy is a veteran guy. Wow, Mike. So this is Mike's. Here's my favorite stat on Mike. I don't remember. I haven't crunched the updated number in a few weeks, but he has now been involved, Sean, as a quarterback, as an OSU quarterback, assistant coach, coordinator, and head coach in 31% of all the football games ever played in OSU history.
A third.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
yeah.
My goodness.
And he's still this young-looking guy, right?
Yeah.
He's 56, but, I mean, he's still this youthful-looking guy, and yet he's kind of starting to creep up on, like, Paterno and Bobby Bowden kind of longevity careers, So, yeah, Mike has consistently found a way against Texas time and again. But like I said, like a lot of those Texas teams finish those seasons 5-7 or
In
6
recent history, yes.
5 losses. And those were like really good OSU teams that would win 10 or 11 that year. And so I think no matter how you dissect the matchup, I think you favor Texas in just about every metric.
Well, here's something I learned about just doing a little research on Ollie Gordon. This is a special game for him because I had no idea that Texas came in at the end, and I found this soundbite from the Pistols Firing podcast, and Ollie, and it looks like he was asked about it here recently after their last game against BYU.
Well, honestly, I felt disrespected by Texas because they had me like 6 on the depth chart behind other people that I knew that wasn't supposed to be. But, the only thing it was that why would they come so late? They came like a day before signing day. So, obviously, they weren't paying attention to my film before.
Does that make it exciting that you're playing Texas then?
Yes, sir. Makes it real exciting.
So,
yeah.
Ollie's going to – if nobody else in that program – inspires the team enough, I bet you Ollie does.
All right, but think about this, Sean. Like 75% of all the players on every opponent for Texas, they got that same grudge.
That's a great
point. They didn't get offered by Texas either, and they wanted to play at Texas. I mean, everybody has that. So I remember that question coming up year after year after year. All these Texans on the OSU roster, do you harbor a grudge because UT didn't offer you? Oh, yeah. Let's, But, I mean, everybody in the conference damn near could say, yeah, I'm upset because Texas didn't offer me. I thought, too? I thought you were going to mention that Ollie Gordon ran for 450 yards against Allen in a playoff game one time. He did do that
against Allen up in the DFW area. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's something I did not know.
Yeah, he like 459 or something crazy.
That's unreal.
Yeah, it is.
That's unreal.
But I mean, I mean, if you're the fifth guy on a Texas recruiting chart, you're a pretty good player, right?
Good.
Yeah, and it's a numbers game. So did they want him? They did want him, but I mean, once you get down to it, you can't get them all.
No, you have 85 scholarships. That's all.
Yeah.
I want to get your take on this because, listen, college football playoff rankings, they are what they are. The only one that matters is the last one, which is the last one will come out a little earlier this week on Sunday after the conference championship games.
Right.
So a lot of Texas fans, I get it. A fan wants to see their team in it. But I want to give you I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they're playing this out really well. There's a lot of human element involved in the CFP. They're playing this out. They're keeping the undefeated teams right there as they should. But Alabama and Texas are right there. I mean, literally right there to which they kind of have an idea of what potentially could happen here. Do you think I'm wrong for thinking that if Florida State or I mean, Alabama would have to win in this scenario, beat Georgia.
Right.
Okay.
That's not that crazy a notion either, but go ahead.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And let's say Bama wins, Texas wins. Man, I see if that happens, I see Texas and Bama are partners in this, meaning they'll go together if they both win on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. You know what? If I just apply, like if I could like wipe my knowledge of all these teams' records and just go, let's say, because I haven't seen them all. I mean, I have seen them all. I have seen them all like either this much or a lot, but just the eye test. Is Alabama the 8th best team? Oh, Lord, no. Is Texas the 7th best team? No. I mean, and honestly, I haven't been that fired up about Ohio State most of the year, not relative to what they've been in years past. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I would like, man, it would be hard for me to, like FSU has surprised me, I got to say. I mean, I've been impressed. I kind of had written them off as a true top tier squad, and I don't want to really be a fan of Washington, but they're pretty good.
They are good.
And their quarterback is a badass.
We saw him in the Alamo Bowl last year at Penix.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, it's just a numbers deal. There's not enough room for Texas and Alabama. Are they playoff caliber teams? Yes. Are they, in my mind, would I have them beyond Oregon and Ohio State? Yes, absolutely. It would be hard for me to bump an unbeaten FSU, regardless of kind of the eye test part of it. If I think in a matchup, Alabama, Texas versus FSU, I think Alabama and Texas both would beat FSU. I do, although they got a crafty little quarterback. He's so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't work that way. Every year there's going to be those squads 6, 7, 8 that you can make a great case for, but but who knows? I mean, there's always at least one really truly weird championship weekend outcome, and maybe Texas somehow benefits from that. I mean,
there's going to be a lot more eyeballs, I think, on these conference championship games more than there has been in recent history.
Yeah.
All of them.
Well, it's kind of refreshing, I got to say, that there's like 2019. I mean, really from midseason on, you knew LSU was going to win the national championship. There was no question. Georgia, the last couple, I knew they were going to win. I think everybody knew they were going to win. I mean, there's more intrigue this year in the tournament. It feels like, college football playoff does extend in my mind to, it's not just the 4 teams and the semifinals and the championship. I mean, it starts this weekend.
It does.
It started weeks ago. But there is more intrigue with regard to what the championship matchup is going to look like and who's going to win it all ultimately than we've seen in a while.
I agree, because beginning tomorrow, on Friday night, Pac-12, that's a big one.
Sure it is.
And I think it's the only one on Friday night.
It is. Yeah.
It is. Well,
how about that being one of the upsets of the year, though, is that the Pac-12 turned out to have such a nice final season before it falls completely apart.
I really do hate it. And, it's the direction that college football has been going here since 2007. We kind of could conceptualize what this was going to look like. It was a matter of when. And now it's at the demise of a historically rich conference. And you just hate to see it. And I want to tap into your knowledge here and your wisdom, because there's been some great guests here that have told some great man cave stories. And I want to pull up some photos. Maybe they coincide with these. These are some Bill Haisten in 3 photos.
All right, let's see it.
I got to go with, obviously lower left. That was he. When they visited Texas.
That was at DKR. That was was that 17 or 15? Do you remember?
It may have been 17.
2017 OSU at Texas.
Tom Herman.
And you came down to that's right. That was Herman's first season. Charlie Strong was 14, 15, 16. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Herman came in 17. So you came to our end of the press box to catch up with all the Oklahoma guys?
I did.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so and that was a weird game. It was 15, 17. Was that a really low scoring game, like a 13?
I think it was. That was Mason Rudolph was still around, right?
Now wait a minute. Was that the interception in the end zone? Such a bad throw. Ellinger maybe is.
Yeah, that's right. He got. He was playing woozy. Let's say that.
Yeah, that would explain it. Because he threw to a wide open Cowboy.
Yeah, Cowboy's right there. He's like, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah, he fair caught the interception. It was that easy. It was Ramon Richards. I remember that play. Okay, so the picture above it is Muhammad Ali. This was in 1992, and there was because like my favorite sport probably ultimately is boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I got involved in writing a lot of boxing late in the 80s and through the 90s. I did a lot of boxing writing, did a lot of freelance stuff for magazines like Boxing Illustrated, The Ring magazine.
Yeah.
And then like the only Sports Illustrated byline I ever got was after Tommy Morrison tested positive for HIV in 96.
I remember that. Oh,
big story at the time. Because before that, the only the only prominent athlete who had publicly acknowledged a positive HIV test was Magic Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so I loved boxing, and Muhammad Ali came to Tulsa for a charity boxing event in 1992. He actually came like 7 or 8 years after that too, but that was the first time. And we made arrangements to have lunch at a downtown Tulsa diner, and unforgettable. I mean, are you kidding? And Ali at that time, he was only like 51.
Yeah.
And he could still talk. He could still converse pretty good, but it was at a whisper, because later he lost the ability really to speak.
The Parkinson's.
Yes. Just cruel. So cruel.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an amazing couple of hours. We were at Nelson's Buffeteria. Like I remember even what he had for lunch. I mean, I was just like a little kid. I was so, I just loved being around the guy. And then the reaction when we came out of that little side room, it wasn't just me and Ali. It was like some of the event sponsors, and there was about 6 of us, maybe 6 or 7 of us. And when we came out of that little side room, the place was packed because word had gotten out, Muhammad Ali.
I can imagine.
Yeah, because we went in there right when it opened, like at 11 a.m. And a few people saw him, but and in 1992 there was not texting, social media, any of that. So this was just word of mouth, landline phone, information sharing. And when we came out of that restaurant on Boston Avenue, downtown Tulsa, I bet there were 1,500 people horseshoed around the entrance to that place. And then Ali, big ovation, and he did a few of his magic tricks, and he levitated. He did this goofy levitation trick thing, but it was awesome to be around the guy. And then that night at the event, the Booker T Washington marching band serenaded him with their drum line and the full band. And man, just one of the great couple of days of my life.
That's amazing.
And then getting to know him over the next few years, when he would come back to town, it was just surreal. So I love the guy. It's hard to believe he's been gone 7 years.
It's virtually, I still think of him as bigger than life.
Well, he was. He's the most famous person in the world. Not athlete, person. He's the most famous person in the world. So, and then the picture to my right here.
King.
The picture with Coach Switzer was that like late in the day when he had been named the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And I don't remember exactly how I scored a little bit of time with him like that, but that was a room I think connected to his office at Old Valley Ranch,
Yeah.
Before they moved to the Star. And so that was what was that, March, or that was like first week of April of '94.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird, you talk about an improbably insane 48 hours. Jimmy Johnson quits the Cowboys after 2 Super Bowls, right? And Jimmy quits the Cowboys, and the next day, Barry Switzer is introduced as the Cowboy coach.
The Jerry Jones, Arkansas connection.
Yep. Yeah. They were. I think Barry was a student assistant, or maybe an assistant coach for the '64 Arkansas National Championship team, and Jerry was an offensive lineman for that team. But they always had a relationship, for a long time. I had interviewed Coach Switzer maybe, I don't know, not long, a few months before that at a charity golf event. And he's chipping and putting, and I asked him, you've been out of the game now 5 years. Would you consider getting back into it, a college football head coaching job or whatever? And he said, no, I have terrible back problems. It's a young guy's game now, and my back just wouldn't let me do it. And then when the Cowboy job opened up, he's like, I'll do it. You take the Cowboy job with the triplets and all that talent. So, and that's really, I knew Coach Switzer before that, but I really got to know him during the Dallas years and beyond. And I can state publicly and proudly that I love Barry Switzer. He's one of the best people. He does more good for more people than anybody I've ever known in my life.
I enjoyed him. I've always, from afar, kind of like you at the beginning when you told the story that you loved watching Arkansas, OU, but had an affection for UT. But I'll tell you this: growing up as a kid, he made it hard because they were dominating Texas in the mid '80s, running that wishbone, Jamel Holloway,
That's right,
and Charles. But my first time I met him as a media member in OKC, I was with Myron Patton. We went to Barry's house off of Chautauqua in that semicircle drive.
Yep.
He knew we were coming. We ring the bell. We got our camera gear, everything, and tripod. He answers the door with these little bitty shorts on and nothing else. Oh man, look, come on in. That had no hesitation. That's Coach Switzer right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious.
Well, he has part of the. Here's one of the 100 reasons I think he's such a beautiful guy. But like, he has a room in his home, and it's like a oversized kind of a bedroom, kind of a room with multiple big beds for big people, like as in football athletes.
Yeah.
And anytime a former player comes to Norman, and they don't have a place to stay, or maybe money's a little tight or whatever, they have a place to stay.
That's
at
awesome.
Coach Switcher's place. Yep. No, he does so much good for various charities, and it's funny. I went to Troy Aikman's music festival last summer, 2022 summer. He had a big music festival that Blake Shelton headlined south of Tulsa. Great event, and I'm telling you, maybe the biggest pop from the crowd all day might have been when Coach Switzer arrived. That's true. And the crowd parted like the Red Sea, and Coach Switzer and a couple of security guys and Troy Aikman and some of the former Cowboys, and Stephen Jones was there, and Kevin Gogan, and all these Cowboy guys plus Coach Switzer walked down this little path in the crowd, and the crowd lost it. And I'm telling you, of course, Troy got a big pop too, but I mean, Coach Switzer is the most popular person in Oklahoma history. That's a fact.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
He'll give anybody his phone number.
You know who would have been right there with him? But he went to Golden State.
Durant, KD.
Stayed. He was on course to be at that level of popularity forever in Oklahoma.
Immortality.
Yep.
I love that. Yep. That you're absolutely right, man. But I get it now that I understand why. But oh my God, there's going to be a documentary one day on the Thunder.
Oh, there has to be. Yeah. Durant, Westbrook, Harden together in Oklahoma City. For Oklahoma City to even get an NBA team was just like stunning.
Mind-blowing.
And if not for Hurricane Katrina, it doesn't happen.
Correct.
Because then you get 2 years of a trial run as the substitute market for the Hornets, because New Orleans was unplayable, right? So you get a Hornets team for 2 years. The attendance in Oklahoma City for those games was off the charts, and the sponsorships that they were able to get, the corporate relationships. David Stern was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
There's kind of money flowing in Oklahoma. Well, yeah, the energy business was going great, and money did flow, and they got all these $1 million sponsorships, and and then whatever. 2 years later, they get the Seattle team to move down, and I say Clay Bennett bought them. Clay Bennett bought the Sonics and moved them to Oklahoma.
And
here we are. They've been here 15 years, and it's in about an hour they play the Lakers. And they've rebuilt, and they're really good again.
They're good, and they're about to be great here in another year.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. That was fun too, because when I arrived, the Hornets were still splitting, playing there, and Chris Paul, David West. I mean, you're a basketball guy. That was a lot of fun, and then to see it happen so quickly, and then to see the ascension of it, was that 2012 year was so much fun. So much fun.
Yep.
But we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, depending on what time people see this episode, the Cowboys, these next 5 games are huge, because they're against good teams. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this quick break.
Here at Hargrove Roofing, we try to think outside the box to kind of get the creative juices flowing. So I brought in my friend Stevie Lee, former defensive tackle for the Texas Longhorns. He's going to help the team strategize, really motivate them, light a fire.
This guy's going to block down. This guy's going to block down. You put your butt into the guard, and that way my Mike linebacker gets free to do what?
Not only are they going to learn a thing or two, but they're going to also leave with a great attitude and a bunch of smiles on their faces.
I'm sorry. What does this have to do with roofing exactly?
Get out.
Right now.
I said get out.
For me, that's what it's all about. It's just having fun, making our employees have a great time. Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof.
How do you look at these next 5 games against teams with winning records? The criticism of you guys has been you're 8-3, but haven't beaten a team with a winning record yet. What opportunity is there to push that narrative aside?
We got to play these 5 games. That simple.
I mean, what do you say to that, Bill? I mean, it's the next 5 opponents beginning tonight on Thursday: Seattle, the Eagles, Buffalo, Miami, and the Detroit Lions, who are all of a sudden a Super Bowl contender. Combined 38-18 record. What do you see, including tonight? Do you see the Cowboys over 500 over the next 5 games?
It's so interesting. If this were your final 5, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, you'd say, what a manageable schedule down the stretch.
Yeah.
Holy moly, though. Who saw Miami coming? You know what? I got to say, when Tyreek Hill left Kansas City, I thought, that's a mistake. Your numbers are going to suffer. You won't have the same. Shoot, he's playing like an MVP.
Yes.
So no, I'm fired up because I want to see. Sure, you get a kick out of watching the Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0, and 38-3 or whatever. But I'm ready to see. I'm ready to know really what they're made of and whether. But a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with a couple of friends. I'm in a chat group when the Cowboys are playing. We always go back and forth, and I'm like, I'm starting to because I'm always the critic of the group, right? But I said I think they're one breakthrough win away, maybe, from getting to a different level, right?
I feel the same way.
The 92 Cowboys were they didn't know how good they were until. Really, that team didn't know how good they were until after the season. But they were, I kind of feel the same about these Cowboys. They need to beat the Eagles and get that out of the way. They've got to beat the Eagles. Tonight goes without saying they got to win tonight. But I just think once they record a victory like to beat the Eagles, and then, I'm not afraid of Buffalo like I was a few weeks ago. I mean, they have ball security issues like crazy, and with the Cowboys' ability to. How about Deron Bland? Is he not the biggest surprise of the year? Maybe
5 pick sixes. Is that right? Yeah,
it's an NFL record.
That's unreal.
So what? You lose Diggs a couple of months ago, and you're like, oh no. And then Deron Bland, what?
A 2-star at best.
Yeah. So, I love I love the upcoming schedule. I love to watch meaningful games. And then, it's going to be because when they go into the postseason, you don't want to go in like saying, well, hell, it's going to be a quick out. They're not truly a contender. And if they can win like 4 of these 5 or whatever, I'm going to feel good about watching them in the postseason.
I feel the same.
Like they have a chance to make a real run and to be relevant. So no, I love but the Eagles game, that's the one because that's the only game left on the schedule. That's a head game for the Cowboys, and they got to get beyond that.
And Dallas has got to get a playoff game at home somehow, some way, and not go to San Francisco again.
No. Hey, that was pathetic.
TikTok in the man cave. There are this is the fun part. This is going to be an edited version. So there's a lot of weird stuff, strange things you see on TikTok. This one, I've kind of, I follow them now. 3 men at a deer camp and telling awful dad jokes. I've reached the age where my stuff is not fun anymore. It is not. So these guys are telling jokes, and this is a sample. And this is, it's called Deer Blind Dad Jokes.
Okay.
Why can't you hear a pterodactyl
Going to the bathroom. Because the pee is silent. What do you call a lazy kangaroo? A pouch potato.
Okay. So the jokes are like trash, but their giggling is fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's organic.
Yeah, right. No.
They had one. They said, "Why do NASCAR drivers struggle to get a Tinder date?" Because they always swipe left.
That's so dumb, but it's so great.
So ridiculous.
Right.
Let's end things on a positive note.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
Bill Haisten, arguably the greatest time of year for sports. We're overlapping basketball, college, pro, and it is, for a lack of better words, nut-cutting time in college football. There's still a chance for programs like Texas to play for the big one. And we're in the holidays. Tell me something good or something inspiring you may have seen or you're experiencing that others should take note of.
All right. Well, for me, my whole 2023 year, my 2023 experience, the zenith of my human experience in 2023 was the final out of the World Series.
Oh,
because I've been a Texas Rangers fan since they became the Texas Rangers, and I was it was just, I mean, the World Series was great, and game one was amazing. But I still can't believe they came back to beat Houston. I can't. I thought they were dead. So that it was just the most, and the final two seasons, months of the regular season were they're so bad for the Rangers. And I just thought, this was a special season and you guys have blown it. Thanks a lot. And then they win every game on the road in the postseason. 11-0, was that it? On the road. Amazing. So, I mean, thank you, Lord Jesus, for that World Series championship. Thank you, Bruce Bochy. Oh my God, he's the
great job of managing.
To me, person of the year in Texas, Bruce Bochy.
Move over Governor Abbott, Bruce Bochy.
But I with regard to something good pertaining to college football, I thought it was critically important this year, going into this final Big 12 season for UT and Oklahoma. OU lost 7 games last year. Obviously, OU had got to turn around and have a better looking year this year, right? Okay. Well, they've won 10 games. And I thought it was critically important for Texas to generate really good, strong momentum going into the SEC. Well, they're in the Big 12 championship game. So with regard to this platform, very, very positive season for Texas, for Steve Sarkisian. They have what everybody's striving for in college football. Yeah. An offensive-minded, a brilliant offensive-minded guy in the head coaching position, and a little bit of the best kind of depth at quarterback, at least for the time being. Because Arch Manning, he's going to stay. I guess what I hear about Malik.
Yeah, there's a rumor he's maybe looking into Ohio State.
That's it. That's what I heard. Yeah. Well, I mean, they may be ready to fire a big amount of money at him. So,
well, you heard Matt Rule, what he said.
Yeah. Well, all he's doing is stating it's just interesting that a head coach is willing to stand up and talk about that. So the sticker price, but specify a dollar figure on the sticker price for a good quarterback. But
it's mind blowing.
It is what it is.
That's what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. And it's like the college football playoff. Don't worry about it. That's the whole goal. Everyone's being sucked in and thinking, complaining about where teams are each week. The only one that matters is the one at the end. And that last one, I almost feel positive in saying this, that wherever teams are at the end is where they should be.
Yeah. Well, right. But, you know, I still can't believe the Rangers won the World Series. I mean, every day I have like a little moment, no matter what's going on, how busy I am, I'll think, damn, Rangers got it done.
I'm still in shock. I'm with you. You've been a fan longer than I have. You were there for the inception. I started in 1984, 85.
Yeah. Well, I used to, when I was a sports editor in Paris, Texas, I would drive to the old Arlington Stadium and watch the Bobby Valentine's Rangers, and they had that young roster, and that was they had so many prospects.
Bouchel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Ruben.
Pete O'Brien. Sierra.
Ruben Sierra. They had a great young roster, and it just didn't quite click. In the 90s, you got Juan Gonzalez and Pudge. I actually saw play a handful of games here in Tulsa with the AA team.
All right.
Oh, yeah. You know, you knew he was going to be it was the best arm I'd ever seen. So anyway, I guess that's enough about the Rangers. But
yeah,
thank you for the Rangers made my year. And I don't mean necessarily just my sports year, but I mean my year. That was the highlight of my year.
I feel the same way, and it brought together fraternity brothers from college and good friends, and reunited me with people because we were texting and talking about it almost every day. And of course, Creed had a surge in probably Apple Music downloads.
No doubt. Well, I'm sitting there on a couple of occasions in the postseason, and my face is just soaking wet. I mean, it's just got tears streaming down my cheeks. And then, a couple of nights after the World Series ended, I get online to do some serious shopping.
I got 3 items. I'll tell you this, and I'll end on a good, and it's a circle of life. In 1987, I think it was 86, my mom knew I loved the Rangers. There's a lot of Astro fans here growing up. She knew I loved them. I couldn't see their games. So back then, you remember that old regional network, HSE?
Of course.
My mom bought it for me or subscribed to it so I could watch the Rangers.
Right.
And I couldn't, she passed back in May. And I feel like, man, this is hilarious. She knows my sister's family are Astros, and I'm a big Rangers guy. Surely she had something to do with this.
Right.
And,
well, HSE became Fox Sports Cable, which became Valley Sports.
Yeah.
But no, I had HSE, and you're right. I mean, it's my son loves the Rangers. I love the Rangers. You're right. It was a bonding deal, I'm sure, for tens of thousands of people. And then the championship celebration in Arlington was so big time looking. You talk about something glorious that came out of nowhere. Because I knew Bochy was an interesting hire, but I mean, come on, man, who even knew to expect this?
He's the guy. He's a team builder.
I don't see any reason why they can't win it next year. No reason.
They have every reason to win it, a repeat.
They got offense 1 through 9. There's not a weak spot in that order. 1 through 9. The top third can have a garbage night, and the lower third can
pick them up.
Go 5 for 8 with 3 home runs. You don't know, but they can do that. So anyway.
They can.
All right,
my brother. Thank you, my good friend from Green Country, Tulsa, Oklahoma. The pride of the Tulsa World. Great writer. Follow him on Twitter and read his material. Watch his or listen to his podcast. And for the great Bill Haisten and the OG Man Cave boys, that being Hardball Hards, Big Mike, and Coach Mo, we are out.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. I'm in my car in the